Hello, my name is Huntington Witherill. I'm a fine art photographer and have been so since 1970. I live in Monterey, California, and I am predominantly known for my black and white classic landscape photographs, and more recently for a series of color botanical images which are entitled Photosynthesis. I'm looking forward to spending some time with Marc Silber in hopes of offering some insights on what it's like to be a fine art photographer.
Welcome to the Marc Silber Show, Advancing Your Photography, where we bring you tips from remarkable photographers about how to take photographs you love. Huntington, thanks for inviting us here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Tell me about your approach to photography and the type of work you really love to do.
Well, my approach to photography is probably mostly about the process of being a photographer rather than constantly looking to get the next photograph. To me, the process of just living my life as an artist is really what's most important to me. I'd have to say that my favorite time is, of course, when I'm out photographing.
Now, talking about being a photographer, I know it might be hard to get like the 1, 2, 3s of that, but what are some of the components that make that up for you?
Well, I think the number one component is the passion that I have for the medium. Being able to engage yourself through an entire lifetime and continually be passionate about anything takes a lot of patience, persistence, and a lot of hard work, actually.
Looking at the process of photography, what are some of the key things that you use every time you pick up a camera or even before you pick one up?
Well, I think one of the keys is not to have any preconceptions about what it is you want to photograph. I certainly, like most people, for example, if I'm going out into the landscape to photograph, I'll go to a certain place. Let's say I go to the Badlands in South Dakota. There's a preconception a preconceived idea that you're going to this specific place. But frankly, I might go to the Badlands and end up coming back with a number of photographs of billboards or some novelty shop. That's what I mean by not going with a preconceived notion. When I first started out, I would kind of go out into the landscape, and I had it pretty clear in my mind what I wanted in the picture. I want that mountain with the clouds coming down below it and the moon rising up above, and the trees and no wind, and you'd never find it. You would just never find it. And while you were searching for all these kind of preconceived ideas, you'd be passing by, potentially hundreds of thousands of photographs. So I have learned over a period of time to kind of open up my mind and let the photographs find me and not really be thinking about what it is I want to photograph. And I think that's one of the keys to finding successful photographs is allowing yourself to be open enough to be receptive when the photograph actually finds you.
A moment ago, off camera, we were talking about critiquing, and you mentioned self-critiquing. And I think a big component was editing your own work.
Yes, it's a vital part of being a photographer, any kind of an artist. You need to be a very harsh critic of your own work. Over the years, I've continually tried to raise the bar, every photograph, each one. And I approach the photographs as separate entities. I work in series, but I consider each photograph as an individual piece. And so I'm constantly trying to improve. It gets harder and harder, obviously, as time goes on to try to get over the bar.
Huntington, how do you raise the bar?
Well, oftentimes I don't think I have the ability to raise the bar. Intellectually I can raise it. How do I get over that bar? Oftentimes that's a matter of simply keeping your mind open enough and experimenting with your photography to where something comes to you that all of a sudden allows you to go in a different direction, for example. And that to my way of thinking, is how you get over the bar.
Okay, now I know this is hard when you've been doing something for a long time, but can you kind of reach into your toolkit and maybe give us some practical tips that you've learned along the way?
Composition is almost a kind of inherent skill that one either has or they don't have, but it can be learned. And I learned it by, in college, taking two-dimensional design classes. This was the study of how to arrange form and line in a rectangular frame. And I found that it helped me to visualize composition so that there was balance and a sense of purpose to the composition. I've always thought of photographs as being nothing more than shape and line and form, and how the light plays off of those elements. And I'm not so concerned with what is it that I'm photographing in terms of what the subject matter is. It doesn't matter whether it's a flower or a tree or a dumpster or a doll in a museum or on the Strip in Las Vegas looking at at a pyramid or something, or at the Eiffel Tower. It's what is the form, how is the form relating in the rectangular frame, and how is the light causing that to happen? And that's what I concentrate on. So there is I think, a thread that runs through all of my work, regardless of what the subject matter is, that can be found in the way I deal with form and space and line. I think there are three things, essentially, that can contribute to a good photograph. And the first is effective lighting, as that's what photography is. It's recording light. The second would be a well-balanced composition. And by balanced, I don't mean necessarily symmetrical, but visually balanced. And the third would be to have enough technical skill in carrying off the photograph that you don't disrupt either the lighting or the composition. And if you have those three things, I think you've pretty well got a good photograph. Beyond that, it's a matter of subjectivity as to whether I might like it, you might not.
You're shooting almost exclusively natural light.
Yes.
Any particular tips for getting that exquisite light?
Well, I will say that I think when you're photographing the landscape, what's in the sky is actually just as important as what's on the ground. If you're going to include the sky in your photograph, having some clouds, I think one of the worst days to photograph is what I call the day that's often like me as the photographer. It's bald and windy. Not a good day, not the best day to try to make landscape photographs. So when I'm out traveling, I'm constantly looking for the weather, looking at the weather to see where the storms are and heading toward them rather than trying to run away from them. And I always find that the light is more interesting and it's different when it's not just a bright sunny day.
Any final tips for viewers who just want to become better photographers?
Persistence, keep at it. They say that genius is really just mostly a lot of hard work and putting 10 to 100,000 hours into something. I really honestly believe that anyone can do anything if they spend enough time at it. I would say that, if I have any expertise as a photographer at all, if you spent as many hours doing it as I have, you'd be an expert as well. You'd be at least as good or not better. So,
listen, thanks for joining us. It's been great to have you on our show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Be sure to join our Advancing Your Photography Club to have fun while learning photography. Also, check out our guest site for a closer look at their work. Tune in to our next episode of Advancing Your Photography. Until then, this is Marc Silber reminding you to get out and take photographs you love.